Gaming, as we know, has been one of the most despised activities in India, especially by the parents, because they consider that their child has been ruining away their life by sitting in front of the screen and doing nothing absolutely and just pressing some buttons. But is that the situation? Or are we learning something different? Are we developing a certain skill? And can we land a job with that? To discuss all of this, I'll be joined by Deepa Krishnamurthy, who's been an HR professional for quite a long time now and has been a gamer herself.
Hey everyone, this is Deepa. I hail from Bangalore. I've been into human resources from about 7.5 years now. And to give you a quick introduction, I come from a family of four. Started off my career as a developer. I was into coding for a good 3 years, and then I transitioned into human resources because, as Siddharth knows, I'm a people person, and started off my HR journey by pursuing my MBA in human resources. And I've never looked back since then. So that's very little about me as to how I landed into the HR role. And as a gamer, yes, I have been into gaming, though not in the recent past, but while I was in college and school, I really enjoyed playing the video games. Typically during the times when we, started off with Dave and Prince of Persia and Mario and all of that. So that's still my interest. Haven't really ventured into the big games like Counter Strike and all of that and NFS that you play these days. But then I do have a lot of friends and my sibling as well who is into gaming. So yeah, that's again very little about gaming.
Since you've been an HR professional for over over half a decade, if I'm not wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, please. Is
Yeah,
more
yeah,
over
just a
half?
little over half a decade.
Perfect. So, what sort of challenges that you faced while you're acquiring talent? Because when it happens to me, I see that you know the talent acquisition is also a very interesting skill set. Plus, knowing the skill set that you need to aim for is quite it's sort of marketing in itself. So, how do you what is the process that you go through?
Okay, so working in recruitment specifically, where you have to source the right talent, I think it's all about understanding what the company really needs because there's always a disconnect between what you really need and what you're really looking for. And that does save a lot of time. And like you rightly said, marketing, right? Marketing of the brand, especially to the candidates in terms of telling them why they should really join us, is where anybody stands apart as a good recruiter. But having said that, it over the years, finding the right talent has become really challenging for a lot of reasons. One, the way the market is trending right now. Just to give you a very quick example, 10 years ago, when I graduated out of engineering, the moment, okay, so I come from a middle class family. So as soon as you get an offer, you're excited, and that's it. Like you're looking forward to the day of joining, and that's pretty much it. But the way the market is trending now, just 10 years later, candidates, because of the exposure and the options that you have these days, candidates shop offers. So the most challenging thing for me, while it is challenging, that's also something that excites me, is keeping the candidates engaged. Like, keeping in touch with them, making sure that they're really excited about the job still. So that's one thing that is a challenge for a lot of recruiters these days. And in the Indian market, one thing that we face is combing through volumes and volumes of irrelevant resumes that come into your job bucket when you post a job. So that's definitely one of the challenging things because you end up spending a lot of time there. One other thing that has really helped me is ensuring that the recruitment process is as quick as possible because when you have too many rounds of interviews, the candidates tend to lose interest and it just gets cumbersome, right? So ensuring that you get back to the candidate within 48 hours, irrespective of having received the feedback from the team or not, is really important. And trying to have as less number of rounds as possible always makes the entire experience good for the recruiter as well as the candidate. So I hope I did answer your questions in that.
Absolutely. It's very much on point. Now that you've already figured out, the kind of process that you go through, uh, there are
Right.
certain skill sets that you look for primarily when you're targeting a particular role. So let's say we're talking about fresher that's going into the digital marketing role. How
Right.
do
Right.
you what are the skill sets that you're looking for in an ideal candidate, or the common skill sets
Okay.
throughout the roles? What would be those?
Okay, for me, as being in the recruitment for quite some time, when you know that there is a fresher profile coming in, you should always understand that they do not have an experience. So, what I look for in a candidate is the first important thing. So the company that I work for, we take, we believe in bringing in good people and not finding a fit as in like as a resource per se. So attitude is something that I look for in a candidate, which is the first filter where I would look. What I look at from a candidate is, are they a good, I mean, is he or she a good listener? Do they have empathy? Do they have good comprehension skills? When I say that, when I'm asking them a question, are they listening? Are they able to understand what I'm talking about? Are they answering to a point? And then their command over language, because communication is definitely the key. Etiquettes is, of course, another thing, in terms of how well you respond to the questions that are coming your way. Are you cutting off the interviewer mid question and things like that? And apart from that, very 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 simple expectations in terms of how well they've researched the company, the role, and most importantly, do they have the willingness to learn? Do they have the willingness to adapt to the role that's coming their way? And apart from that, things like, so mostly it's interpersonal skills and they're willing to learn because, sometimes what happens is despite the sort of educational background the candidate comes with, it's important to understand if they would fit well into the team. And that's typically what I look at. And one thing that I really, really appreciate from a candidate is their time punctuality. Are they joining the meeting or the interview on time? Because most of the interviews that I conduct these days is remote, so it either happens on Zoom or Google Meet. I'm sorry. So time punctuality is something that I really look forward to, and yeah, and it's another thing that really catches my eye, and probably I could term it as the cherry on the cake, is that the candidate is honest. Like, just be yourself. I know it takes a lot to be vulnerable and be yourself, but then that's something that a lot of recruiters these days look for. Just be honest. Like, if you don't really know something, it's absolutely fine.
What I saw was there are certain skill sets that since you mentioned, are already present between gamers. They already acquire these while spending a lot of times behind their screens and so on. So, what what are those skills that you've particularly noticed over your journey as are the key skills that that are present in gamers, especially since gamers happen to be those people who spend a lot of time behind a screen, and then again they are underappreciated for it. But again, those are the people who have the skill set. They just need to tap into it. So what are those skills again that you've identified as the most prominent skills uh, with within gamers, but among gamers? Could you mention? Could you highlight those, please?
Absolutely. I'm so glad we're having this discussion because like you rightly mentioned, they are underrated. Like, I come from a family where people who are into gaming, they're always told, it's not worth what you're doing. Where are you going to land and things like that. So I'm completely with you, and I'm going to take a little more time to answer this question, because gamers do come with a lot of skills that they probably haven't discovered. So this
Right.
is just to help a lot of them understand. So the question that I just answered, in terms of what is it that I look for in a candidate,
Right.
it's personality and the
Okay.
traits that are required to find a job. So I'm just going to relate that to gamers today. So communication, which I just spoke about, I'm sure when a lot of games that you play these days, it has to do
And
with
multiplayer.
communicating, because you would either have a guild or a group that you work with,
Right.
that you play with. And then social skills. You are being a team player, right? So this helps you, understand the dynamics of how a team works and helps you function better.
Right.
Ethics oriented. Are you ethics oriented? Do you use cheat codes, or do you ethically play? So that definitely is one of the things that, in a personality. So how do interviewers figure that out? I I ask a couple of scenario based questions
Oh, nice.
that help me understand if the person is ethics oriented or not. Because a lot of freshers don't may not really understand how the corporate or the IT industry works. So it's really important that they're grounded with ethics. So that's for that. Attitude, empathy, and being a good listener. That's something that I spoke to you about. Honesty is really the simplest policy. I mean, that's really going to go a long way. So that's something that I mentioned. Punctuality, join the interview on time. Like when a game starts, you have to be available. You can't be a couple of minutes late
You
into the
can be
game.
away from the
So
keyboard.
that's another personality. Yeah,
The
you cannot be away from the keyboard.
oh,
Absolutely.
right.
And thought process, right? So this is one thing that I will touch base probably a little later. But then certain things, when you answer the interviewer, for example, are you, it clearly reflects the clarity of mind and the sort of self awareness that you would have. Now I'm just going to move into the traits that are required for a job while comparing that quickly with gaming. So laser focus is definitely one of the things. Are you focused? Do you how well would you function is definitely something that's going to help you. Research on the data, the second, research on the data collected. So it's important that you have an understanding and knowledge and background of the company well, like you would the storyline of the game, or the guild, or the characters that are available in the game. The third is problem solving or conflict resolution. So, in any given situation, one could get into problem solving mode or into a panic mode. So, typically in gamers, they are so used to working in playing in an environment where they would have to think of, they naturally switch into the problem solving mode. So, how to overcome a situation with the available data is something that they already are hands on with. Um, and the subset of that is spontaneity. So, thinking on your
Oh,
feet with responses.
absolutely.
So, that gives you creative thinking and analytical thinking, right? So, that's the fourth skill. You have so many skills as a gamer.
Right.
Patience and perseverance. That's something that a lot of us do not tend to realize, that these are the rare qualities that help one as a team member.
Right.
And a team member who is willing to work their way through training in the ranks to become a vital asset to the company, while, as a group, you might not want to really barge into the opponent's guild or the opponent's army and then start shooting, right? You probably want to wait it out. So that's
Right.
just a comparison. Another thing is clutching, which I think we had discussed during one of our conversations earlier, which
Oh,
which
yes.
popped up,
Right.
where where you have a pressured and dynamic situation that's coming your way in challenging environments, which is ideal for fast-paced roles in startups, for example.
Uh,
So, Siddharth, I'm just
this
going skill after
this is
skill. Please stop me if I'm just running.
no. I mean, this is absolutely on point. Especially when
All
once you
right, all
mentioned
right.
clutching. So this is something that we relate to the most, since multiplayer gamers that
Right,
all of us are, like you and sometimes even
right,
single players. So since it's a it's an age of battle royale games, right? So
Hmm.
the clutch moment happen a lot. Moments happen a lot. So
Right,
uh, I'm talking about
right,
where
right.
it's a one versus three or four situation where a person has to use his mind and outplay and outsmart the problem. Opponents are not the problem. The problem is the conflict. So the person has to be the last one standing. So how do you do that? And that's one side of things. And once you start to apply that gamification skill set, and the gamification of things, and you take a backseat, you take a step back, and then you start analyzing your life in general, or work, or a problem, or a certain given environment. And once you take a step back and then you start to gamify it itself, then you realize that okay, this could be a clutch moment at the same time, right? So you're absolutely on point when you said that.
Absolutely.
So which
Right.
is why I was a little curious about, yes, this clutch moment is going to happen even in the conversations because we have already
Absolutely.
spoken about this.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
given these are the skills that you've already mentioned, those are the prominent
Right.
ones. Um, which ones do you
Right.
pick? I mean, what are the top four or top three skills that you
I
look for? You
have
said
three
integrity,
more,
right?
if I
Oh,
may.
please, please, please,
Okay,
please,
so
please, son.
I have three more skills that I would love to talk about. So, strategic planning and execution with leadership qualities. While you are a team leader, you are already leading a guild, and you use the data collected so far to sketch a plan to overcome a particular challenge. So, you actually possess the leadership qualities that you require for a role. So that's definitely one of the things you would probably want to highlight. Professions ranging from sales, psychology, medicine, academics, and law all rely on recognizing patterns.
Wow, I
So
mean,
let's say, yeah. So I mean, I was just trying to think because a lot of times we end up understating the superpowers we have, which is ideally why this is one of the things that came up. And one last thing is experimentation and scenario planning abilities, which does sort of fall under strategic planning and execution, like I said, where most questions these days during interviews are scenario based, right?
right,
So we've sort of gone ahead from what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, tell me about yourself. It's more about throwing a situation to a candidate and trying to understand how they answer and being able to gauge a lot from how they respond. So this actually helps a gamer answer a lot better because they're so used to being in scenarios or situations. So yeah, this is these are the skills
right.
that gamers already possess, which
How
will really come
nice.
handy
This
to
is
find a
very
job.
in depth. This is
Thank
a
you.
very in depth research that you've already done. I mean, I'm amazed by the fact that the freshers who are just starting off, they don't know that these guys already have these skills. And I mean, when an
Absolutely.
HR professional person who they, talks about all of these things, they innately get a confidence
Right.
boost. And I think you've already
That's
done your
great to
magic
know.
here because um, this I think would help them for the long term over at least next 5 to 10 years. Say, I mean, and that is a big boon for them. What are your thoughts? I mean, just for an anecdote's sake, by the way, I shouldn't have
Mhm.
mentioned that it's an anecdote. What are your thoughts on this question?
Right.
Why should
Okay.
we hire you?
So, a very interesting thing that I always think about is you should, in fact, ask the why should I join you? Because a lot of times what
Yeah,
happens is
right.
on a lighter note,
Of
because
course,
I mean it's really important to understand why should we really join a company? Because throughout the interview, you would have sort of tried helping the recruiter understand why they should hire you, and at the end of the call, they have a question that says, "Why should we hire you?"
right,
And you have probably justified and answered all the questions.
right,
So yeah, I mean, you can always answer the question stating, okay, these are the things, I'm good at
Right.
communicating, I'm a gamer, da 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 da. But it's always good to end that question with another question stating, why do you think I should join
What's
you? I
wrong with this
mean,
position?
what makes your company stand off? Yeah.
What's also
Stand
wrong
out,
with this?
sorry. So
Right. So, what's wrong with this current position? Why are people leaving? This could be a question as well.
yeah,
I mean, so this
is
is
this a new position or is this a backfill?
oh yeah,
Backfill is
that's
basically someone who's replacing
the
someone
other
who's
one.
exiting the
Right.
company. So
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Interesting perspective because a lot. I mean, these are the memes as well that are floating. When a
absolutely.
person wants to join a new organization, and then all the layoffs, Twitter layoffs happening, and so many other things
Exactly.
happening.
Oh, that's so
Right.
ridiculous.
What do you think about the Twitter layoffs that are happening? Given, I mean, that's pretty much giving an impression that working for companies or working with small teams, organizations, however the person wants to address them, it's not a fruitful situation for either the fresher or the hardworking person because that's how the emails are being shot and so many conversations around it on LinkedIn and otherwise even on Twitter. So what do you think? How what is the situation? What are your thoughts?
I feel that's quite harsh because, like you said, it sends out a very wrong message to the people who are especially starting right after college or starting their job, because it states that anybody is easily replaceable, which isn't right. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think it could have been handled a lot better, especially with mass layovers that happen. Instead of laying off 10,000 employees and hiring 10,000 employees, it's always important to work with the existing employees, trying to figure out what better we can do with the existing environment. And I think that system needs a lot of work because it's sort of unfair. I was reading this post where an employee had joined Meta. He'd moved to the US, he joined Meta, and it had just been 3 days and he was sacked. And now, because he
Yeah.
has the H-1B visa, he's supposed to get a job within 60 days or he's supposed to fly back to his country.
Yeah.
And that's not pleasant for everyone because they would have put all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And,
That's pretty much
the
big
day
gamble
we
for them.
start, yeah, I think one thing that the industry or corporate companies should understand is that we're working with people, not resources. The day
Right.
we really understand that we work with people and see people as people, I think that's really gonna change change everything. But I'm sure it's gonna take a lot of time for
Right.
companies to get there.
Right. So
So yeah.
to get there, to get in the ideal team, to get there, get into the team of their dreams, what are your best tips? What would you give as a hack or a tip or a tutorial, if you will, as to how does a gamer craft their CV resume, and how do they approach their favorite team
Okay.
to work for them?
Okay. Okay. So if I should try to keep the answer really short, for resumes, I would any day the easiest hack is look for the role. So let's say that you're looking for an associate role in a particular team. Look for profiles of existing people who've been at the market for less than 2 years on LinkedIn. Check out their profiles, see how what responsibilities they've put in, and align your existing skills to that, because when you approach a recruiter as a fresher, good recruiters, they do understand that you do not have relevant experience, you're coming in as a fresher. So the most important thing is, like, I just spoke about the skills that you already possess, try to highlight them. And when you look for a job, let's say there is a job description, look at what are the expectations of expectations pertaining to that particular role, and try to, tweak your resume accordingly. Please keep your resume short, because it is understood that you are fresh into the market. You can look up tools like Canva, for example, that have very beautifully curated templates where all you have to do is just put in some content, relevant content. And at the end of the day, when you approach, a recruiter or apply for a job, one other thing you can do is try reaching out to people working in the team over LinkedIn, trying to understand what the work culture is like. Is it really worth applying for that company? Because Glassdoor does help to understand the culture of the company, or what are the benefits the company offers, but it's always good to connect with people. Another thing that I would definitely recommend is when you apply for a job over LinkedIn or any portals, for example, try connecting with the recruiter. Okay, so this is pertaining to the resume and applying for a job. The second part is, what are the things you should be aware of, or the hacks that you need to possess before attending an interview, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So practice does not really make perfect, but practice goes a long way. So just, I mean, now that we have Google, you can really Google a lot of questions that might come your way. There would be a few questions that are definitely going to be, for example, tell me about yourself is definitely going to be a part of the question, because the recruiter really wants to know who you are. So practice that. Do as many mock interviews. For me as a person, I like, even the recent job that I landed, I stood in front of the mirror, I practiced, because a lot is gauged based on your expression, your body language, how you speak.
Right.
So standing in front of the mirror does wonders. Practice, practice, practice. Another thing that I would definitely like to give you an understanding is, it's important that you research about the company,
Right.
because the interviewer would like to know how interested you are with the job, so the company, the role, and also look up the interviewer's profile. If you're not provided with that detail, always ask the recruiter who the interviewer is going to be, so that you always know who, when it comes to breaking the ice, you might have an idea. Now, understand the company's culture to figure out what is it that they look for in a candidate, and that you can align your skills, or answer in a certain way. And then, yeah, I mean, three things that you can remember before, attending an interview: research, prepare, and honest execution. Just be yourself, just be honest, and that's definitely going to take you a long way.
Thank you so much for this.
So yeah,
This was quite an insightful conversation with you, and these were, I mean, quite
great
deep
to know.
insights. Honestly speaking, and I think with this, the new upcoming gamers who are trying to land a job within the gaming industry, outside the gaming industry, doesn't matter really. There are literally 18 roles I figured out that a gamer can land. So, and one of them has to,
Right.
I mean, happens to be a marketer, and the other one would be
Mm-hmm.
uh, a creative artist, and then there would be a teacher, a journalist, an illustrator, and an airline pilot, technical support specialist, and in fact, and an automotive service technician as well. So, I mean, there's so many things a person can land
And
with.
many more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, these are the certain things, certain roles that I counted on my fingers, but there
Right,
are
right,
literally 18 roles that I figured out. It's a good article available on the internet, and
right.
these are the roles that you can land as a gamer, and no one. I mean, who knows what you can land even in the future. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation, Deepa. I am so glad that we could do it, and I'm hoping to do this again with you very soon on a very interesting topic once again.
Absolutely, Siddharth. Likewise, always a pleasure connecting with you. It's always fun. And thank you so much for allowing me to, express a few thoughts that I had in mind. And just a little message to the gamers: you are awesome and you know it, and just utilize your skills, be confident, and be yourself. And should you have any questions, you need guidance, or you want to reach out, you can probably find me on LinkedIn, and I'd like to help out uh, if you have any questions at all. So, all
There you
right,
go. The
thank you so
LinkedIn link
much.
is right on the screen, so you can connect with Deepa as soon as you're done watching this. And do not forget to share with your friends as well, so that you know you never know what you can do with your skill set. So keep
Absolutely.
upskilling and keep
Okay.
watching the Flip Switch show. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.